Hello and welcome to the Handcrafted Garden. I'm Carol, and I'm glad you came to play in the dirt with me today because I'm talking about container gardens. And what I want to do is focus on the things that really matter when it comes to taking care of plants in a container. Because it's easy to talk about plants that thrill and plants that spill and plants that fill, but it's not quite so easy to talk about how to design and plan and plant and take care of a container garden so that it stays beautiful for months or even years. So let's get started. This will be a series of videos where I will be emphasizing the things that matter, things like location and container and soil and combination of plants. So today's episode is on containers. Containers are very important. They truly matter when it comes to taking care of a plant because they hold the soil and provide a home for the plant. Today I want to tell you 4 things that really matter when it comes to selecting a container. And if you stay till the end, I'll tell you what you can do with a container that you might otherwise throw away. When it comes to selecting a container for your container garden, there are 4 things that matter. And the first is size. You want big plants in big plots, and you want small plants in small pots, but it's a little more detailed than that because you have to think about the growth of your plant. This is a baby plant. We have no idea how much the roots have grown in the bottom of the pot. If it's root bound, I really wouldn't want to put it in a pretty pot where it is still root bound. So you have to consider the roots of the plant. A container is a home for the plant, just like your house is a home for you. You want your container to fit your plant so that it has room to grow, but it's still comfortable in that environment. The second thing to consider is shape. This pot is short and wide, and it's designed for plants that have a very shallow root system, like a succulent or a cactus. This pot, on the other hand, is tall and skinny. It's going to have a plant that can fit comfortably in this tight little space, but that will shoot roots down into the bottom of the pot and make use of the entire pot as a home for the roots. The next thing to consider is character. Every pot has its own color and texture and character, and you want your character to match your plants. So for example, this pot is a gorgeous blue-green color. And if I wanted to put it with my blue-green succulent, the color would perfectly complement that succulent. But if you consider a contrast, this pot, this plant with the orange succulent in it is a perfect contrast with the blue-green pot. And either one of these plants would be spectacular in terms of matching and complementing the color of the pot. Terracotta is a popular choice for pots, but there's something interesting about terracotta that most new gardeners, beginners, don't recognize. You can run down to the store and pick up a new terracotta pot. It's a cheap pot, it's very affordable in your budget, and it's got this great orange color. But the seasoned gardener will look at that pot and say, oh, you just ran down to the store and picked up the cheapest pot you could find. What they want to see is character in a terracotta pot. Some people would look at this pot and say, oh, it's ugly and old. But no, this pot is seasoned and aged, and it's taken care of many plants throughout its lifetime. And yes, it will take care of more because it has this gorgeous patina that gives it character. Another thing that can give a pot character is for you to add a spot of color. It doesn't have to color the whole pot. Sometimes it just needs a spot. But other times, you can really be artistic with your pots and add a color and a texture into the design that you paint on your pot. And what this tells your friends and neighbors is that you really took some time and effort to make this container go with your plant and become a perfect home for your container garden. The third thing to consider is drainage. When you put a plant in a pot, you're going to be watering it regularly, and you need for the water to be able to flow out the bottom of the pot. And most pots come with its own drainage system. Some pots come with a nice little tray at the bottom to hold the water, and that's something you need to look for, because sometimes pots are a little deceptive. A friend gave me this one, and I thought it was very interesting with the Chinese patterns on it, and it has a nice little hole in the bottom of it with this cute little tray that it's sitting in. But watch what happens when I put water in my pot. It's not draining. It's either stopped up or sealed up. So this isn't a pot that I would want to use in a container garden. Some pots, you can tell right away there is no drainage, and you wouldn't want to plant in this pot, but you can plant in a separate pot and nest it inside the pot. And now you have a beautiful container that you can have indoors that won't leak on your chest or cabinet where you set it to grow. When you have a nesting pot in a pot with no drainage, there's something important to consider, because it's easy to just water and water and water and not realize that the water can accumulate in the bottom of the pot. So when you're using a nesting pot like this, you want to take it out, water it, let it drain, and then set it back in the container. Now, some pots provide so much character that it's impossible not to make it a home for a beautiful plant. And this is one of my favorite pots, but it has no drainage. And I'm not going to be able to find a convenient nesting pot to fit into this one, but there is something that you can do to make even this pot have a drainage system in the bottom of it. And it works because this pot is so deep. The first thing you would do is take some gravel, any kind of gravel will do, and you'd put it in your pot, and you'd want to fill it up, maybe an inch in the bottom. And then you take some fabric, landscape fabric or coffee filters or even newspaper will work, and you create a layer on top of the rocks. And then you put your soil on top of the fabric. So what you've done is taken a beautiful pot and created a drainage system in the bottom of it so that the water doesn't soak the soil and leave your plant sitting in a puddle of wet soil. So there are 4 things that matter when you're selecting a container: the size, the shape, the character, and the drainage. And since you're still here, let me tell you about a hailstorm that broke one of my pots. And it's a pot that I would normally look at it and say, oh, that's not going to work anymore. It's a cheap pot and I might just throw it away. But imagine that it's not a cheap pot and you don't want to throw it away because it's important to you. You can still use a broken pot to take care of a plant. Let me show you how. You need another broken pot. Maybe a piece that complements the color of your pot. And you simply take your plant out and you add your broken piece, sort of like a retaining wall in your yard, and it holds the soil in place. So now you have a pot with a whole different kind of character. 2 broken things that come together as one to make something very beautiful. And I'll tell you, your friends and neighbors are going to look at this kind of creativity and know that you're a gardener that loves to play in the dirt.